One thing that I do want to put out there before we even begin to roll the wheel is I want to get a clear understanding and explanation and also definition as to where Samura Seiichi stands as a character when it comes to scaling in reference to Jujutsu Kaisen. But first, this video is sponsored by GamerSupps, the ultimate energy and focus formula. Like most of you, I get tired right around 3 p.m. and after a long day's work, when I want to kick back and play some video games, I can just never find the energy. But to be honest, before they even approached me to be a sponsor, I used GamerSupps to fix that issue. GamerSupps is an awesome drink made up of a bunch of vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin D3, B6, B12, and vitamin H. All super good for you and your health, so it's not one of those awful sugar-filled concoctions that's gonna make you crash after drinking it. And it's got caffeine and things like nootropics to help you stay focused, stay energized, and in the game. Listen, I could never stand energy drinks myself, and coffee, to me personally, tastes like sewer water. But GamerSupps has so many awesome flavors and some really funny and cool designs. Personally, I've been drinking BBL GG lately, really good tasty blueberry flavor, but I also enjoy some JFJ snake oil for that apple cider taste. Use the link in the description or pinned comment and use code NOOP for 10% off your next order of GamerSupps. If you're still skeptical about it, go check out the link and use my code anyway. They are more than willing to send you some free samples and give you a chance to try their product for free. Use my code NOOP now for 10% off, and thank you GamerSupps for sponsoring the channel. Most of Kagurabachi's scaling comes from the Sojo lightning blast that Chihiro was able to survive, which was about the size of a city block, and that's how much damage it was able to rip through. Chihiro was able to survive that blast, which is where a lot of the city block scaling comes from. From there, you do have a large amount of feats specifically from Samura that imply that Samura would be significantly higher than city block. At minimum, he's probably multiple city block. I mean, you've got his Seite war feats, which the painter describes. The Phoenix Fire was able to cover the entire battlefield, and that's where his painting comes from. We already know Samura is the strongest one of the enchanted blade wielders, besides of course the sword saint with the Shinuchi. And the big feat that everyone loves to mention when it comes to Samura is his ability to extend his owl across all of the country. He was even able to block off the snow and block off the weather from the country itself. Now, it is important to mention that the owl is mostly detection, and he is able to appear as the feathers can drop down from wherever the owl is present from. However, his detection does get weaker the more he spreads his range out. Now, when it was coming to finding Yora, the main leader of the Hishaku, all it took was Samura extending his owl across an entire city, and he was able to keep tabs on the entire Hishaku, specifically Yora, wherever they were at any point in time. When he spreads it out across the entire country, his senses are still strong. He's able to pick up any enchanted blade signature at all if it ever reveals itself. However, that's all he's able to maintain detection over. He's not able to maintain detection over the Hishaku, anything else besides the enchanted blades at that point. Another thing that I want to point in is a lot of people will give Samura country level attack potential and country level, feats for this, which I just don't necessarily believe that is the case. To be honest with you, Samura is 100% not island level, because we know for a fact that the only person that was strong enough to even be considered island level is the Sword Saint. And even then you would be pressed to say he's island level because he didn't necessarily destroy an island with his attack potency and destructive capability. Like, at best, the Sword Saint was able to kill all of the life on an island. He was able to reach an entire range of an island, which is impressive. Don't get me wrong. Samura being able to extend to a country is impressive. All of these things are great. But I think when we give characters like Samura country level, island level, all of these things, it's very clear that when it comes to actual combat swinging hands, Samura is very strong, don't get me wrong. In overall attack power, I would probably put him at multi-city block to maybe even the highest wank I'd be willing to give him would be town level. And that's like peak Samura, if you want to be honest. If you want to wank him all the way to country or island level, you can. I just don't agree with you. That's fine. Now, obviously, Samura's as powerful, if not more so, than Chihiro. He should definitely be able to survive an attack like the giant lightning blast, everything like that. when it comes down to it, we already know that Sombra is capable of taking lethal wounds from people that aren't anywhere near City Block Plus, or higher than that level, when he dies to multiple wounds from the zombie warriors that Hirohiko is controlling. Now, again, this is plenty of attacks all coming at him at once, but I mean, just like Chihiro, Sombra's main key to surviving those stronger attacks is definitely going to be Nishiki Cloak. And Sombra has Suzaku. You know, when Chihiro gets hit by the lightning blast, he uses Nishiki Cloak and the 3 times buff from Nishiki to heighten his durability to survive an attack of that level. Sombra would be able to do the same thing with Suzaku. He would, you know, heal himself from the damage to keep himself surviving it. I mean, we know he was able to survive the 7th month Twilight Wave that Kuguri released, which obliterated pretty much a large section of an entire pagoda. Suzaku isn't endless. It's not, you know, unlimited. It does cost massive amounts of spirit energy, and Sombra can probably be brought back from the dead definitely more than once, twice, 3 times. It's not infinite. It really does cost a hefty amount. As far as durability, it's definitely safe to say he's at least higher than City Block, maybe even higher than that. But again, he can be worn down. We know that with smaller attacks that aren't necessarily packing that same power. Speed is obviously, you know, most Kagurabachi, it's pretty accepted that Kagurabachi is about lightning speed. Through Chihiro's fight with Sojo, most base characters that are Enchanted Blade level are going to be moving at or around, you know, maybe lower than or higher than lightning speed, depending on the character we're talking about. Again, Sombra is moving faster than Chihiro can even handle at this point, so it's safe to say that Sombra is reaching this lightning speed. If not, if you want to include EI White Purity style, he might even be faster than that. With Tobimune, this all gets even crazier, because when you consider that he can use the ability Crow to instantly swap with any of the feathers he has anywhere over the battlefield in any other areas. He can also drop these feathers from the sky, from his owl, if he's covering a large section of the area, so that's really important to mention as well. I don't know exactly where his instantaneous teleportation would put him. I would definitely not be like, oh, Sombra is speed of light. I mean, but you could argue that if he's probably at the upper echelons of lightning time, massively hypersonic, if not even higher than that. And, you know, starting to bridge the gap of Kagurabachi into sub-relativistic, but I don't want to get into that. I wouldn't want to call that, because I don't want to go too high. And then obviously, you know, Sombra is a war veteran. He was able to single-handedly solo huge amounts of Daten Seki natives that were able to use the crystals and its power way on a higher level than any of these zombies are that he no-diffs, right? Sombra can fly too, it's important to mention as well. He can cover entire battlefields with his Phoenix Fire. The Phoenix Fire is able to be offensive to enemies, but it can also heal not just people around him, also heal structures and put them back together. It also is able to heal himself, as we talked about. He's a combat master. He's able to even outsmart the Masumi, stuff like that. Despite being blind, he uses echolocation, and he does have a significant amount of stamina, being a war veteran. Although, again, if he's using Suzaku in a tough battle of attrition, he will start to lose spirit. However, on a sorcerer side, if they're using reverse curse technique, the same is said for them. I think I've covered mostly everything that I really need to cover. If anybody has anything maybe that I missed and they want to throw in there, definitely let me know. But I think as long as we are all on the same page of where Sombra stands here, we can then move into start spinning the wheel and seeing how he handles a lot of these characters. Finally, now that yap session is all done, let's spin the goddamn wheel and get this character's first matchup in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. Who is the first character that he goes up against? The tension is killing me. Not Takaba! Oh no, oh, Yorozu. Okay. Well, that's a tough fucking matchup right from the get-go. He couldn't have gotten someone easy. He couldn't have gotten someone that, like, at least was like a warm-up battle. He gets someone that's easily able to throw hands with 15-finger Sukuna, of all people. Yorozu is able to throw hands with a 15-finger Sukuna and also put him on the back end and do damage against him. If Yorozu is able to reach 15-finger Sukuna level, it's safe to say that she should be somewhere around his same attack potency and power. 15-finger Sukuna was able to launch that humongous crater in the entire area of Shibuya and almost wipe a large section of Shibuya off of the map. She also has Construction, which Construction is a very fucking handy ability. an insanely handy ability under her weight. The fact that she basically is literally using like iron sand from Naruto, where she's able to construct different weapons, use it as like tendrils, and use it as long range attacks, close range attacks. She's able to, when, you know, fully maximizing herself against Sukuna, she's able to completely surround him in her creations. And then when that doesn't work, she's able to use her insect armor. And her insect armor was significantly faster than 15-finger Sukuna. It's tough to say exactly where 15-finger Sukuna would sit on the speed scale. I know a lot of people argue that based off of Sukuna's fight against Kashimo, he's probably somewhere closing in on like lightning time, depending on where you put him. I doubt that I would give Yorozu that lightning time, though. I would probably be safer to say she's on the upper echelon of like hypersonic, maybe a little faster than that, could probably keep up with someone like Yuji. So Sombra would definitely be way faster than Yorozu. So that's one definite advantage that he has. He would be probably similar to her level of attack potency. They'd probably be pretty comparable when it comes to strength. The thing is, where Yorozu would be very weak when it comes to being fully exposed and out in the open, one, you have Samura's feathers that are going to give him instantaneous teleportation, on top of the fact that he's already speed blitzing her. Even though he's able to do significant damage to her when she's fully exposed and could probably kill her in 1 to 2 shots if he gets good hits on her. If Yorozu is able to use insect armor, that would be pretty tough. Pretty much just because her durability does start to rival and maybe even give Sombra a tough fight. Obviously, he's still speed blitzing, but Yorozu with the insect armor is going to be much harder for Sombra to bring down and give Yorozu plenty of chances. And then obviously, if Yorozu gets enough of a chance, domain expansion for Sombra is probably endgame for him. Yorozu's threefold affliction domain expansion is literally just creating perfect sphere, trapping someone in the domain expansion. Everything inside the domain expansion just gets wiped. I don't know if Yorozu has reverse curse technique. I'm not sure if she was ever shown to have it. So he can swap out of the barrier with feathers. Now that's important because I think it's actually interesting that we got someone that was able to use a domain right here so we can have this discussion. If Samura gets trapped in a domain expansion, he's not able to escape with the feather, because if it's just mobility, then he can't move out of the barrier. If it's teleportation, then yeah, he can just and swap, he's out of the barrier. Yeah, that was a bit different when Todo swapped everyone out of Sukuna's domain, because Sukuna's domain has the escape route, whereas Yorozu's domain is going to be a closed barrier. So it's tough. Like I said, I'm going to default to whatever you guys think, but is Gojo able to teleport out of domains even? Well, that's kind of what it is, Esoteric, is because Gojo's not even realistically teleporting, right? Gojo is just using blue to basically negate the space between him and where he's going to. So even though Gojo is quote unquote warping, what he's really doing is just moving at such a high speed it appears instantaneous. So that's why Gojo can't teleport out of domains, which is what my interpretation was of how Sombra's feathers it works the exact same way. It's not outright warp teleportation. It literally is just two things instantaneously swapping places at a very intense speed. But like I said, I'll default to whatever democracy says. I won't be too mad about it, because if that's the case, then that makes a lot of domains easy pickings for Sombra, right? If Sombra can just TP out of domains, I mean, a lot of them just don't become problems unless they instantly activate their guaranteed hit. Like if they're dealing with a Mahito or a Gojo or something, they 0.2 him. And even that, you could argue Sombra would be faster. I think until further notice, we have to treat Sombra teleportation as actual teleportation rather than Gojo's type of teleportation, since he doesn't leave a trail like Shiba. Sombra is able to travel great distances extremely quickly with mobility resembling teleportation, is how they describe it on the wiki. Yeah, Tiberius, I saw that too. It just depends on if it's actually quote unquote, like, where's the chapter where it explains? Where's the chapter where it explains directly, I think is the most important thing. We just got a chapter where it said his 3 abilities outright. So let's check the source material. That's probably the best way to do it. Yeah, it just says one of Tobimune's powers is Crow. He can swap locations with any of the dancing flowers. It does, dancing feathers. It doesn't say specifically whether it's teleportation or not. Okay, so either way, I don't want to get too bogged down on this. We got 16 votes. We look like teleportation 69%, high speed movement 31%. So look, it's pretty simple. With 69%, teleportation is the winner of the poll. What we'll go for is that's what we'll put on paper. But again, I want to make it very clear that that's not set in stone. We could find out that it's mobility, and if that's the case, then domains are an instant win for Yorozu. Although it's much more specific to where Yorozu has to get a very specific win con, where Samura has much more win cons than Yorozu does. Yorozu needs to be in her insect armor, be able to stall long enough to produce perfect sphere, and then catch Samura in the domain while he's faster. And even if you want to say their speed is equalized, again, Sombra is just has the advantage, especially if we're giving him teleportation over high speed movement. So we already got Sombra at a W. Up against Yorozu, one of the stronger characters in the series. Again, this is a character on 15 finger Sukuna level. That's pretty OP. Let's see who round 2 goes up against. Let's spin this shit. Can we get 2 wins in a row? I don't think we've ever had a character win two rounds in a row so far on these streams. Up against Mei Mei. This is an obvious victory. If we're saying that Samura is able to actually defeat someone like Yorozu, Mei Mei shouldn't even be a problem. Mei Mei is going to be speed blitzed. Mei Mei is going to be outplayed when it comes to combat, even though she is a strong combatant who has, maximized her body and physical potential to the fullest. Even if you want to give her the best power she has, she's nowhere near a city block, multi-city block hitter that, she is not hitting that hard. She is definitely higher than building level, but saying Mei Mei's city block is insane. Samura's powers are just an instant W. Mei Mei is going to have a bunch of crows surrounding her. Samura is going to be easily able to throw his own feathers in, confuse her. He can teleport in and out and just attack her in and out. Again, he's already moving at lightning speed, even if you don't, whether you equalize speed or not. So he's always going to be able to move faster, whether he can rely on his own base speed or he can just use Tobimune's crow ability to swap with the feathers. That's an easy W for Samura. That's an easy W here. Yeah, like I said, if he was putting up a decent fight to the point of victory against Yorozu, a lot of these characters aren't going to be an issue with that, which means this gauntlet might be easier than I thought. No diff. I don't even know why I put that on there. That was stupid to put on there. Okay. We've got Yuta Gojo. So it's not fully fledged Gojo. It is Yuta who is just learning how to use things. Sombra not being able to bypass infinity. I'm trying to think if there's any kind of wank, but I don't think so. I generally don't think there's anything that could possibly be done. Sombra with Crow is able to dodge unlimited void because Yuta Gojo doesn't have the 0.2 domain expansion. Yuta Gojo is not going to be able to activate domain as fast as Gojo would be. So Sombra does actually have a chance of avoiding domain expansion. Obviously, you could argue that he would feel the bloodlust, feel the spark of energy that's coming for him, and he'd go, all right, I'm out of here. Could the Six Eyes see which feather he would teleport to? Technically speaking, yes, although the issue with that would be is Samura is going to be moving at a much faster pace than Gojo. Now, again, you could argue that Gojo might be reaching close to lightning speed based off of Sukuna and Kashimo's fight. We know Kashimo is able to produce lightning bolts. Hikari was able to dodge the lightning bolt. Maki was able to, move her hands up and take and block a lightning attack from Nue. So there are situations where characters have reacted to lightning in Jujutsu Kaisen. If you want to give them lightning time, the issue is Samura is on the higher end of that lightning time. So Samura is going to be faster than Gojo without a doubt. And considering they both have similar teleportation abilities with Crow and Blue, they're going to be on even playing fields when it comes to actual combat. If he dodges, then Yuta loses because once the domain ends, he flops over. Yeah, honestly, the thing with Yuta Gojo is even if you want to give Yuta Gojo infinity, all's Samura has to do is outlast the 5 minutes. Point blank red or purple, yeah, that would be tough. However, if you're going to give him Crow where he can just swap out, Samura is faster. And Yuta does still have the messy cursed energy manipulation too. He hasn't fully mastered it yet, so he's not able to just molly fucking 18,000 purples one after the other after a domain expansion, everything like that. It's still severely tough for him to do, and he also loses time by using his domain expansion on top of that. So if he dodges, yeah, Yuta loses because he'll flop over. Yuta Gojo would essentially have to trap Samura and catch Samura off guard with the unlimited void, because right now with Samura having the higher speed, he definitely has the advantage over Yuta Gojo. Now, obviously, with blue being taken into account, Sombra is going to get pulled into a lot of situations. Yuta Gojo has telekinesis, so he can control the battlefield a little bit more. However, again, Crow is the perfect counter to that, because anytime that Gojo starts to get an advantage with magnetizing and pulling Sombra in, or, you know, let's say he's telekinetically throwing a building at Sombra, Sombra can just snap out and, you know, change positions with one of his feathers. So even if you want to say that, like, Sombra is faster, sure, but Yuta Gojo can catch him off guard with the Limitless, Sombra does still have the advantage when it comes to things like blue. Now, red, depending on if you could perfectly time and, you know, shoot a red like Gojo does against Sombra, where he shoots the red, it spins around the fucking building and then hits Sukuna from behind. Yes, however, the difference there is that, like, Gojo is, with his own ability, is always going to be much better at using it than someone like Yuta is. We see how Yuta struggles to use the Limitless compared to someone like Gojo, who has used it his entire life. What's the span of Crow anyway? I would imagine it's about as far as he can go, where any of his feathers are. Like, he can quite literally expand his owl all the way out across the country. Yeah, he was struggling to aim blue, he was struggling to aim red, so we can't talk about Yuta Gojo like we talk about the way that Gojo was using red and blue. It's pretty much the most basic usage of Limitless you could possibly get. I think against Yuta Gojo, Samura might not be able to go through infinity. But as long as Samura can survive the 5-minute time span that it takes for Yuta to basically collapse and be unable to control the body because Kenjaku's curse technique gives out, that's a W for Samura. So it's basically just if you believe Samura is able to stall Yuta Gojo out. Realistically, the main win cons for Yuta Gojo are going to be hitting a purple, which is a pretty significant blow. A purple could probably reduce Samura down to his lowest point. Suzaku comes in handy, right? Suzaku would be able to heal Samura from a purple. Even a point blank purple, I would argue that Samura might be able to survive if he uses Suzaku to its fullest, but he's not coming out of that with another Suzaku. That is it. That is the only Suzaku he's getting off. Honestly, I wouldn't even fight too hard if you want to tell me a point blank hollow purple would eliminate Samura in one go. The thing is I really wouldn't. Suzaku is a really good defensive measure because, again, he can just heal completely. But if Hollow Purple is just doing consistent damage over and over and over again to the point that Suzaku can't heal faster than Purple is doing damage, a point blank Purple might be game over. So point blank Purple, and then also if he is able to catch Sombra off guard with Unlimited Void, those are Yuta Gojo's only win cons. Sombra's is he just has to survive 5 minutes. Does Yuta have the Inumaki tape with him? Now that's an important question that I didn't consider. With Suzaku, that might be, what I just said about purple might be more accurate towards red. If he's using Suzaku to the maximum to the where he can't use Suzaku anymore, Sombra could probably survive a point blank red. Damn, Yuta Gojo's coming in with the victory. And remember, the only reason he got stabbed by all of those zombie Datenseki people were because he was locked in a Genjutsu. If Somura wasn't locked in a Genjutsu, he wouldn't have gotten hit by a single person in the entire Bloodshed Hotel, battle. He's locking weight in the sky for a few days countrywide. Right, but I wouldn't say that, like, Samura's power alone was literally holding up the weather, right? I think that's a little bit of a exaggeration. I'm definitely willing to give Sombra a countrywide attack range, but that's like arguing that Druve is citywide, attack power just because his domain was able to encompass an entire city, or Druve Lakdawala is also island level because his domain was able to cover an entire island. It's not just because your attack range is that high. I don't think Sombra can maximum power throw his fucking blade into the ground and blow up a country. I just don't think that's possible. I definitely think it's important to note for how powerful he is. I would never give Sombra a country level. Like I said, I'm not gonna get bogged down on this. We kind of already talked about his stats. Let's see who the next battle goes to. 5 matches down. Let's see if we can get 5 more. Oh, is it going where we hit the Sukuna side? We hit the Sukuna side of the gauntlet. So we were able to beat Yorozu. Are we able to beat the character that beat Yorozu? So this is a 1-up. Let's get the elephant out of the room here. Mahoraga is obviously going to be one of the biggest struggles that Sombra is going to have to deal with. We could argue about how Sukuna and Sombra go in hand to hand. We could argue how Sukuna and Sombra go when it comes to Sombra handling dismantle, not being able to see dismantle. Would Sombra be able to see dismantle with echolocation? Would it be similar to Maki? Is Sombra being faster going to be enough of an advantage for Sombra to get enough damage on Sukuna? How does Sukuna's reverse curse technique compare to Sombra's Suzaku? How does Sukuna's cursed energy reserves compare to Sombra's spiritual energy reserves? All of these things that we could talk about for hours and hours on end, including, obviously we've got Malevolent Shrine. With there being an open route to escape, Malevolent Shrine is a little bit of an easier domain expansion, which is crazier to say, a little bit of an easier domain expansion for Sombra to deal with than other domains, depending on, like I said, where you view the teleportation and the high-speed mobility. Mahoraga. Sukuna being able to partially adapt to everything that Sombra is doing the entire time. You could definitely argue that Sombra would be able to produce a very similar attack potency to the fire arrow to Mahoraga. So obviously Sombra is going to be able to one-shot Mahoraga if Mahoraga comes out. The issue is, just like we saw in the fight with Meguna and Gojo, Sukuna is a master at being able to not just carry the adaptation burden on himself, but also weave Mahoraga in and out of the battle using his shadows. So even though Sombra would be able to get one good, really strong critical strike at Mahoraga and kill him in one big Suzaku blast, it's very clear that Meguna is going to be fighting in a way that doesn't make that easy. You have to remember that Meguna was making it hard for Gojo to shoot reds, to shoot a point-blank purple at Mahoraga, because not only was he just full-on adapting the entire time, you've got the bottomless well shadow that is able to sink people inside of it, hide people within. Sukuna can hide inside. He can use Agito and Mahoraga at the same time. Sombra is significantly faster than Meguna, Mahoraga, and Agito. So Gojo himself was able to throw hands with Agito, Mahoraga, and Sukuna all at once. However, the thing is, when it comes to Sombra, I really don't know if Sombra really has anything to adapt to for Mahoraga. I guess you could adapt to Suzaku, right? The healing of Suzaku and the burning and the flames of Suzaku, that would really be the biggest thing. That negates the damage that Suzaku does, and that also negates all the restructuring and healing that Suzaku is able to do for the buildings around. Mahoraga is able to just completely nullify that. So Sukuna would be completely nullified and immune to the fire. And if that is the case, then that eliminates a lot of Sombra's attack potency. If it's just Crow and Owl, Sombra, all he can do is just teleport. Basically, it just becomes Sombra running away from Sukuna, who at that point, if he adapts with Mahoraga, is just in the complete advantage. Even though he's going to be a little bit slower, Meguna does have a pretty decent amount of win cons, even if you don't include the Mahoraga adaptation, because you've got Malevolent Shrine, easy way for Meguna to keep Sombra away from him. Even if you want to give Sombra the ability to escape, it's like Malevolent Shrine, if it opens whatsoever, Sukuna can hide in the shadows and open a Malevolent Shrine when Sombra least expects it. Can destroy all the feathers in an entire vicinity. Obviously, Sombra can always have a feather outside of the 200-meter range. That's important to notate. So Sombra can always have an escape out of Malevolent Shrine, so that's not as concrete of a win con. However, Meguna, again, if he's able to last long enough in the fight to get Mahoraga to adapt to Suzaku, and eventually he could potentially find it, just like he adapted and found a way to create world-cutting slash, you can even argue and find a way that Meguna could eventually find a way to cut you know, Sombra through the feathers, or do damage to Sombra by hitting the feathers and causing damage to his spiritual energy. Who knows? Obviously now we're getting into headcanon, so I don't want to go that far into it because none of this is true. All of it's just imagination land, and we're all just talking about random shit. So maybe you could say that Maharaga learns to follow the feathers with the adaptation. Maharaga literally learns how to follow the feather to Sombra. That would be fucking crazy. Can't Sukuna close his domain if he tries to? Yeah, Sukuna can close his domain if he needs to as well, so Sukuna could change the conditions of his domain to trap Sombra in it. However, again, you have the debate of, is Sombra teleporting or is he just moving fast? Sombra is gonna see the moment his hostile energy activates. Sombra is gonna always know where he is. I definitely wouldn't disagree with that. Sombra is gonna have, you know, his own sense of being able to fight. This is gonna be a high diff, extreme diff battle, no matter who ends up being the winner. I want to make it very clear. Sukuna does not have any easy way to victory. Because also on top of this, you also have to remember that Sukuna's got the 10 shadows. He's got rabbit escape to throw on top of the feathers. So let's say, for example, Sukuna adapts to the crow, and Sukuna starts to be able to teleport between every rabbit. So Sukuna can literally spread the rabbits in every location, and then it's just the rabbits and the feathers, and Sukuna and Sombra are literally fucking high-speed teleporting across the entire fucking battlefield, throwing hands, and Sukuna can literally follow everywhere Sombra goes. Like, again, we're getting into headcanon imagination land, but Maharaga and like the 10 shadows, you've got Max Elephant for all of the water, Nue and Orochi, you also got Agito for lightning strikes. I personally think Meguna has more win cons than Sombra does, although Sombra does have a pretty good chance of fighting. The issue is Sombra killing Sukuna is tough for me to see, because I think Sukuna, when it comes down to it, is able to use reverse curse technique and heal himself much longer than Sombra would be able to use Suzaku and keep himself alive for. I think Sombra's stamina bar goes out way faster than Meguna's does. Meguna has way too much cursed energy. I think even in a battle of attrition, I think Meguna wins just based off of his high cursed energy. I don't see Sombra being able to muster the power to kill Meguna, especially if you consider that he can just adapt to Suzaku over time. Sombra was holding out for 3 days and is still not winded. I mean, that's also Sombra doing fuck all for 3 days, right? That's also Sombra not doing anything for 3 days. That's Gojo would last infinity long with his own fucking cursed energy if he's not in battle. The only reason Gojo was actually losing cursed energy is because he was using it more than he was regaining it. So Sombra would be the exact same thing. In battle, he would be losing energy way more than he would be just chilling, doing nothing. Sombra could win with a swarm of crow feathers and a Suzaku sneak, but Sukuna can just heal, and if verse equalization is in play, Sukuna has Domain Amp and Ram Deer to just delete Crow. If you want to give Sombra a speed blitz and say Sombra can just decapitate Sukuna faster than Sukuna can react, you gotta give Sukuna the ability to have one reinforces his neck enough where Sombra's sword isn't just gonna fucking one-tap it, right? Because you have to remember, Kusakabe was using a blade, and at best, striking as fast and strong as he could, he was just barely cutting through Sukuna's flesh. You have to remember that all of these characters are reinforcing their bodies with cursed energy. So it's not so much that, like with Hirohiko, where Sombra just, you know, quick slips through and cuts off his head. You know, Sukuna's durability is going to make him be able to at least. We've even seen in the anime when Maharaga took a blade and went for Sukuna's neck. Sukuna literally created a mouth that caught the fucking blade. And I would imagine Sombra's sword isn't going to be any stronger, or maybe it could be stronger, but it's going to be just about as strong, if not a little bit stronger than, you know, Maharaga going full blast. Maharaga, who again is probably also one of the higher attack potency characters in the series. I think when it comes to Sombra being able to quick one-tap decapitate Sukuna, It's not that easy. I just don't think it's that easy. God forbid if Meguna hits a Black Flash this entire fight. I think Meguna would be able to survive long enough for Maharaga to adapt to Tobimune. Once Meguna adapts to Tobimune, whether it's Suzaku, Crow, Owl is probably the least of his worries. Who gives a fuck if Meguna adapts to Owl? But I just think I think Meguna might be able to. It will eventually be able to overcome the warrior that is Sombra. Sombra is faster, yes, but Meguna is a character in Jujutsu Kaisen who, at the very least, has shown the ability to react to lightning. Lightning strikes, lightning time attacks, everything like that. Meguna is the slower character, but compared to someone like, Naoya, Sombra isn't, speed blitzing after images around Meguna. Meguna is going to be able to, fucking somewhat keep up. On top of the fact that Maharaga is going to probably help him adapt to keep up with Sombra in general. If, let's say, for example, it's even something like Maharaga or Agito distracts Sombra, Sukuna slips out of a shadow from underneath, activates Malevolent Shrine, activates it, and it goes while, they're holding Sombra down and he can't escape. That would be... There are plenty of options for... there are more win-cons for Meguna than there are for Sombra. I think that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. Looks like we've got 13 votes, 15% extreme diff, high diff 38%. Someone's got low diff. We've got some low diffs here. I do agree with what people are saying too, where they're saying if Meguna has prep time, he has an even better chance of winning. Yeah, Meguna with the 10 shadows, his domain, yeah. Just slashes Sombra's sword hand off. That is also a high possibility as well. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button because there are still multiple rounds of this Samura vs Jujutsu Kaisen video to go. Please subscribe if you don't want to miss the next part that's coming out soon, or if you just want to cut to the full version, go to the main channel and watch the full stream here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.